When you think about guitar gear, some pedals, they don't just tweak your sound. Some of them, they actually,
Hmm.
they make history.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into one of those, the Boss OD1 Overdrive.
Hmm.
I mean, this thing wasn't just innovative, it literally created a whole new sound category.
Exactly. And what we want to do today, our sort of mission here, is to really unpack the sources, look at where the OD1 came from, its, unique circuit,
Yeah, the tech side.
the tech side, how it changed over time, who used it, some big names there, and just the huge impact it's had, the lasting influence.
Okay, you get the full picture, basically. Why this little yellow box is, well, legendary.
Precisely. Give you that concise but thorough understanding.
Okay, so let's jump right into the beginning, the origin. Before the OD1 showed up,
Hmm.
what was the landscape like? Guitarists had fuzz, right?
Yeah, fuzz, definitely. For those really kind of wild, woolly sounds, or distortion pedals, more saturated.
Okay.
And boost pedals, just to hit the amp harder.
But that specific sound, that sweet spot of a tube amp just starting to break up,
Yeah.
that smooth, creamy thing.
That was the missing piece. You couldn't really get that reliably from a pedal back then. It was elusive.
Until Boss stepped in.
Exactly. Boss Corporation, part of Roland, of course, 1977.
Yeah.
They bring out the OD1 Overdrive.
And that name, Overdrive, they were the first.
The very first pedal to officially use that term, yeah. And it nailed that sound smoother, warmer, more subtle than distortion. People called it transparent amp-like. It just filled that gap perfectly.
So it wasn't just making a sound, it was literally naming a new type of sound.
Wow. It changed the whole vocabulary almost overnight.
And you mentioned a key innovation right away.
Mm.
Something about clipping, asymmetrical.
Yes, absolutely key. It's asymmetrical diode clipping. That was crucial right from the get-go.
Okay, break that down for us. What does asymmetrical clipping actually do compared to what was around before?
Right. So think about how most distortion pedals work then. They clip the signal wave evenly, symmetrically, top and bottom chopped off the same amount,
Which sounds how?
often kind of harsh, maybe buzzy, a bit artificial sometimes. The OD1 did it differently. It clipped unevenly, more like how a real tube amp behaves when you push it.
Ah, okay, so it's mimicking the tubes.
Exactly. It gave the smoother, more organic sound, more dynamic too. It responded to how hard you played. It wasn't just fuzz or heavy distortion. It had feel.
That sounds revolutionary for the
Yeah,
time.
it really was. And that one circuit design choice, that became the blueprint. Think about the Tube Screamer, Boss's own SD1 later on. They all owe a huge debt to this asymmetrical idea in the OD1.
So it really set the stage. More natural, less sort of flat sounding.
Precisely. It laid the groundwork. And, to really get why it was so special, we got a peek under the hood, right? Look at that circuitry.
Definitely. So that asymmetrical clipping is the heart of it.
It's core to that signature tone, yeah. But there's another piece, the op amp, the operational amplifier. And interestingly, that changed over time too. The really early ones, we're talking 77 to maybe 79, they used a specific chip, the Raytheon RC3403ADB. It was a quad op amp.
I've heard that name, Raytheon. Why is that one so special to collectors? What's the big deal?
Well, among enthusiasts, that Raytheon chip, it just has this reputation. People say it makes the pedal sound warmer, gives it more dynamic range, maybe a smoother breakup. It's kind of the holy grail OD1 sound for many.
So that's the one people hunt for.
That's often the one, yeah. But then, around 1980 or so, Boss switched things up. They started using other op amps, more common ones like the JRC 4558.
Which changed the sound.
Subtly, yeah, not necessarily
Got
worse, just different. Those later pedals are often described as maybe a bit brighter, a little more cutting.
Huh. It's amazing how one tiny component can shift the whole character.
Totally. It really shows how these internal choices shape the sound you end up hearing, even within the same pedal model.
Something else that always strikes me about the OD1 is how simple it looks. Just two knobs.
Right. Super minimal. You've got level. It's just your output volume.
Yeah.
And overdrive that dials in the game from, barely breaking up, almost a clean boost, up to that nice, creamy overdrive.
But the big omission. No tone knob.
Exactly. That's the crucial thing it didn't have. No way to shape the EQ on the pedal itself.
Which must have been frustrating for some players. You get this great overdrive sound, but you can't tweak the brightness.
For sure. I mean, that lack of a tone control is a big reason why some guitarists ended up preferring the later Boss SD1 or the Ibanez Tube Screamer. They added that tonal flexibility.
Right, you were kind of locked into the OD1's inherent voice.
You were. You had to shape the EQ elsewhere, like on your amp.
What about other features? Bypass. Power.
It had Boss's standard buffered bypass, pretty reliable, helps keep your signal strong through long cable runs or lots of pedals.
Okay, that's standard Boss stuff.
Yeah. And power. The early ones could run off a 9V battery or needed this older Boss 12-volt ACA adapter. Later on, they switched to the standard 9-volt PSA adapter, which is what, most pedals use today.
So even the power standard evolved.
It did. And understanding all these little details, the op amps, the lack of tone control, the power, it really helps you appreciate how these things came together to make that sound and why it influenced so much other gear.
And those subtle changes are exactly why tracking its history is so interesting for collectors, right? These early ones, 77 to 80, made in Japan, they're the really sought-after ones.
Definitely the most prized, yeah. If you're looking for one, there are clues.
Like, what are the telltale signs?
Okay, so the earliest batches, like 77, 78, they often had a black screw for the battery compartment. They call it the silver screw, even though it's black, confusingly, but that's a marker.
Okay, the black silver screw.
Got it. Then there's that Raytheon RC3403 ADB chip inside we talked about, associated with that warmer sound.
Right.
And look at the logo text. On the early ones, the hyphen in OD1 is longer. Like OD1, they call it the long dash.
Long dash, black screw, Raytheon chip. Okay, so those are the top tier. What happened next? Did they change much?
Oh, yeah. Things definitely evolved. After about 1980, you get into the transition versions, still made in Japan initially, but then also in Taiwan later on, up to 85.
And the changes were?
The big one was the op-amp swap around 1980, moving away from the Raytheon to that JRC 4558 dual op-amp.
Making it sound a bit brighter, you said.
Generally, yeah. Brighter, maybe a bit more bite. And the logo changed, too. That long dash disappeared, became a shorter hyphen, just OD1.
Simpler.
And then, eventually production moved entirely from Japan to Taiwan in the mid-80s. Those Taiwan units might have had some other minor component tweaks, too. And again, often perceived as slightly brighter still.
So it wasn't just one OD1 sound. There were subtle flavors across its production run.
Absolutely, which is fascinating. And then in 1985, it was officially discontinued.
Replaced by?
Well, effectively replaced by the Boss SD1 Super Overdrive, which, interestingly, Boss had already introduced back in 1981.
Ah, so they overlapped for a few years.
They did. And the SD1, crucially, added that tone control, directly addressing the OD1's main limitation for many players.
Makes sense. So tracking this history really shows how these small manufacturing changes define a pedal's character and why certain versions become collector's items. They're like little time capsules.
Exactly. They're historical artifacts in their own way.
Okay, so we've got the design, the circuit, the history. But a pedal's legacy is also built by who uses it, right? And the OD1 got into some pretty famous hands, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It quickly built this loyal following. Players love that smooth, responsive feel. Eddie Van Halen.
EVH used an OD1. Seriously?
Famously, yeah, especially in the late 70s. Used it to push the front end of his Marshall Plexus. You hear it on stage, early recordings. It was part of that iconic sound early on.
Wow, okay, who else?
Steve Lukather from Toto, he was a big user in the late 70s, early 80s, really helped shape his signature lead tones in the studio.
Lukather, okay, makes sense, that smooth lead sound.
Yeah. And Billy Duffy from The Cult used them in his early rigs. The Edge from U2, he's known for using a lot of Boss stuff, and the OD1 was reportedly in there in the early days.
Even Satriani.
Joe Satriani, too, yeah. Used one early in his career before he moved on to more custom gear.
Man, that's quite a roster. Having guys like Van Halen and Lukather using it early on must have massively boosted its reputation.
No question. That kind of star power, it cemented the OD1 status. When you hear those iconic tones and know this little yellow box was part of it, it connects the hardware to the music we love. It shows the real impact.
And that impact created ripples, didn't it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that lasting influence.
Yeah.
We already said it invented the term overdrive.
Which is huge. It established that whole category, separating it from fuzz and distortion in the minds of guitarists.
Yeah.
That distinction we take for granted now, the OD1 basically created it.
And the circuit itself, that asymmetrical clipping.
Yeah.
And it didn't just stop with the OD1.
Not at all. It heavily influenced so many pedals that came after. Obviously the Boss SD1, that's a direct descendant with a tone control. But also countless boutique pedals. You think of brands like Keeley, Analog Man, Fulltone. Many of their classic drives owe something to the OD1's approach.
And the big one, the Tube Screamer.
Ah, yes. The Ibanez TS-808 Tube Screamer.
Yeah.
It was definitely inspired by the OD1's core circuit concept, But Ibanez went a different way. They used symmetrical clipping, unlike the OD1, and added that very characteristic mid-range hump in the EQ.
So kind of a variation on the theme.
Exactly. You could almost see the Tube Screamer as a reaction to or a modification of the OD1's idea, built on that same foundation, but taking it in a new direction. It's fascinating how they relate.
And because it was so foundational, and maybe because of that missing tone control, did people start modifying OD1s?
Oh, absolutely. It became super collectible, yes, but also a huge subject for modders and circuit analysis. People wanted to tweak it.
Like adding a tone control.
That was a big one. Modders like Robert Keeley, Mike Piera at Analog Man, they became famous for offering OD1 mods. Things like adding tone controls, increasing clarity, maybe changing the clipping diodes, even making it sound more like a Tube Screamer with that mid boost.
And the DIY crowd got involved too.
Definitely. DIY builders loved replicating the OD1 circuit. It was a great way to learn. They'd experiment with different op amps, try different clipping arrangements, add tone stacks. Basically, addressing all the things players wished the original had, while still loving that core sound.
It really fueled a whole culture.
It did, a culture of understanding and tweaking these circuits.
So where does that leave the OD1 today in terms of collectability? Those early Japanese ones are still the peak.
They are, especially those 7780 models with the Raytheon chip, the black screw. Those can fetch hundreds of dollars easily, real collector's items.
And the later ones, the post-80 Japanese or the Taiwan ones.
They're generally more affordable, but still very respected. They still deliver that classic OD1 character, just maybe slightly different, as we discussed. Still great pedals.
And Boss themselves revisited it recently, didn't they, with the OD1X?
They did, yeah, in 2014, the OD1X. Now, that's a totally different beast internally. It's digital, uses their modern MDP, multidimensional processing technology.
What about a reissue?
Not even close to a reissue circuit-wise. But it's clearly Boss paying homage to the legacy and the sound profile of the original OD1. It wears the name and the color.
Right. It just shows how that original idea keeps echoing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That single innovation sparked so much new sounds, new pedals. This whole modding scene, it's a living legacy.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of that ripple effect.
So wrapping this up then, the Boss OD1 Overdrive. It was genuinely groundbreaking, changed the game for guitar effects.
Completely transformed the industry, yeah. Defined overdrive as we know it, that asymmetrical clipping, the smooth tone. It was the foundation for so many classics that followed, like the SD1 and the Tube Screamer.
Its place in history is secure, really, as maybe one of the most important pedals ever made.
I think you have to say that. Its legacy as the first widely recognized overdrive pedal just cements its status.
And here's a final thought for you to chew on. Think about how many guitar sounds you hear every day. Rock, pop, blues, whatever. How many of those tones owe something, even indirectly, to that little yellow box showing up back in 1977?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other seemingly small innovations back then had such a massive, maybe even unacknowledged impact on the music and the sounds we live with today?
Something to think about.